It's peculiar how some cars become virtually invisible. They become such a common sight on the roads. They're virtually road furniture rather than, an actual car that you might pay attention to. But I think while there may be some inevitableness of that with a car that sells in very big numbers, I think this new Vauxhall Astra might just elevate itself above that, because it really does look great. Really kind of blocky and chunky, really nice clean lines. I think it's got a much more sort of purposeful stance to it than your rivals along the lines of the Volkswagen Golf, the Kia Ceed, your Skoda Octavia, your Seat Leon, all of those other hatchbacks that you can get. In fact, I think possibly the only car that comes close to, or maybe even surpasses the looks of the Vauxhall Astra is the Peugeot 308, which is significant because the Peugeot sits on the same platform as the Vauxhall and has the same powertrains. And those powertrains run from a 1.2 petrol to a 1.5 diesel and the plug-in hybrid that we have here, which will do up to 37 miles of pure electric running. Anyway, before we go any further into the Vauxhall Astra and why it might be more than just a pretty looking car, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the CarGurus UK YouTube channel and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss any of our lovely videos. It looks good enough to warrant a hot hatch version of the Astra for sure, but company bosses wouldn't tell us anything about whether an Astra VXR might be on the cards. What you will get is a pure electric Astra with a range of around about 250 miles, which is due to arrive in 2023. So one of the key things about the styling on the new Vauxhall Astra is this visor grille that they've got down here, which is kind of a trademark for the brand now. We've sort of seen that already on the Mocha and the Corsa and all these things. This is quite a high spec car, so you get your contrast roof and you get this really defined line down the side of the car as well. I just think it looks really cool. I do think it's got a really good sort of, like I said, kind of a purposeful stance to it that I think it has real appeal. It's a really striking looking thing. Of course, Vauxhall, you have the LED headlights as well, LED rear lights. So it's quite a high spec thing too. Open the boot in here and it is full of our gubbins because we are on the international launch for the Astra, so we're out here in incredibly beautiful Portugal. So we can definitely say that you can get your cabin bags in there and all your camera gear. Basically, you do lose a little bit of space in the plug-in hybrid Astra that we have here over the standard cars, but you still get a little bit of cable storage underneath there, and you still have a big enough boot that you're going to get your buggy in there, or maybe like a medium-sized dog, fairly easily, so it's not bad at all. Honestly, you're going to get a much more practical car with something like a Skoda Octavia, even the Seat Leon I'd say, but the Astra is more than good enough for most families. Space back here in the rear seats of the Vauxhall Astra is not too bad. It's definitely fit for purpose. You've got plenty of legroom and headroom for a very average sized person such as myself to sit very comfortably. I would say that with the sunroof you definitely lose a bit of headroom. So if you are sort of 6 foot plus, you might feel like you're kind of a bit tight for headroom. But legroom's not too bad, and it's a pretty comfy place in here too. You get your centre armrest and your cup holders, and it's all very nice back here. So I think the interior of the new Astra is as much of a reinvention as with the rest of the car really. Even in the base spec design model, you get your pure panel here in Vauxhall speak. To the rest of us, it's called a touchscreen. Looks really smart. And the touchscreen itself has all the features that you expect. You get your Apple CarPlay, your Android Auto, your nav, your Bluetooth. It's quite straightforward to use. I really like the fact it's got these simple shortcut buttons underneath. They don't look as swanky as the touch-sensitive panel that you get in high-spec 308s. Frankly, they're easier to use. And I love the fact that you've got these really sensible, old-fashioned, normal climate control switches here too. So it's got all of the features that you expect it to have as standard. You also get your parking sensors, alloy wheels, LED lights front and back, all of the stuff that you want. So it really is quite well equipped even from that base level car. You can step up to other specs, including, you go for the ultimate spec car that we have here and you get even a head-up display, adaptive headlights. You really do kind of get a fully spec'd, really high-tech car. The head-up display is really quite good. The graphics are very clear even in bright sunlight, I've noticed. The nav isn't maybe the easiest to follow at times, but generally I have to say the system's good. In fact, it feels quite conventional in here. Maybe that might not be what everybody's after. I like the fact that it's just easy to use. Everything kind of is where you expect it to be. And similarly with the driving position, as opposed to the Peugeot, normal size steering wheel in here. Maybe the visibility could be a tad better. but nonetheless, it's a really nice place to be up here. Materials feel all right. Some of them are a little bit scratchy. These gloss plastics always look good, but they do tend to kind of age quite badly. This one looks like it's already started to scratch a little bit. Generally, I think this is a really neat and very smart interior, and certainly I don't think there's anything in here that's going to put you off buying an Astra if it's making sense for you financially or otherwise. How does it drive then? Well, nicely, I have to say. In fact, that kind of does sort of define the Vauxhall Astra. Everything about it's very nice. Whether that's enough or not might be another question. But this is certainly a car that seems to focus on refinement and comfort. So it's a 1.6 four-cylinder petrol engine mated to that electric motor. When the petrol engine kicks in, as it has done now, there's a little bit of a vibration, a bit of a hum in the background. If you accelerate hard, it gets quite noisy. But I have to say the rest of the time, especially when you've got plenty of battery and you've got all your electric running, it's really quiet. And not only that, but even on the 18-inch alloys that we've got here, it rides really nicely. So even over big bumps and kind of scruffy surfaces, it does seem to be pretty chilled and quite a calm and relaxed car, and I like that about it. Handles perfectly nicely, turns in, it's quite neat, it's very predictable. I don't think it handles quite as well. It doesn't have the sort of really nimble kind of perhaps arguably overzealous turn-in of the Peugeot 308. I think that probably a Volkswagen Golf handles with a bit more sort of assurance in the corners. It's got a slightly better turn-in, and so I wouldn't say this is the best handling car in the class, but it's certainly more than good enough. It's very confident, very sort of, well, again, it's just relaxing. It's just not a car that feels like you want to kind of hustle it, but it does feel like it's very fit for purpose. The biggest problem with this car, I find, is the brakes. So the regen itself is fine, but when you're using the brake pedal to just, however you're using it around town or whatever, it's just a bit unpredictable. You can really feel it switching between the brake regen and the friction brakes, and that makes it quite hard to predict. It's not very easy to get used to. It's quite unsettling, actually. So I do think that brake feel definitely is something that could be better. Other than that, this is a really confident, really kind of assured car to drive, and definitely one that encourages you to be kind of just comfortable and relaxed. Being a plug-in hybrid, of course, you will want to plug the Astra in as often as possible to get the greatest savings. You only get 3.7 kilowatt charging as standard, which would mean that if you plug it into a standard 7 kilowatt home wall box, you're going to get a full battery in around about 5 or 6 hours. If you pay extra for the 7.4 kilowatt faster charging, then you'll get a full battery from the same 7 kilowatt home wall box in around about 4 hours. Plug into a standard 3-pin domestic socket at home and you will get a full battery into the Astra in more like 7 hours. My concern is that that's all well and good, but I just don't know that there is a unique selling point to the Astra. So yes, it drives really nicely, but there are other cars that handle better. What does it do that others don't? Vauxhall typically have great finance deals, and I'd argue that perhaps this is one of the most comfortable and most refined cars in the class. Efficiency is great on the company car. Tax stuff, because this plug-in hybrid, really low CO2, so your benefit in kind's fantastic. If you are a private buyer, then do look at the 1.2 petrol, because that's with the little manual gearbox. I think that might be a bit of a sweet spot for list price and efficiency and all the rest of it. But yeah, so there you have it. The Vauxhall is really likeable, really excellent, fit for purpose, all-rounder. I just worry that it is in such a competitive class, and I'm not really quite sure what it does, other than perhaps the way it looks, that sets it apart. Even so, it is early days for the Astra. We're going to get it into the UK, up against its competition, find out how it stacks up, see if it still looks this good when it's, you know, in a grey car park round the back of Bracknell, rather than in a national park in Portugal on a sunny day. And I think the Vauxhall has got a really good chance of really quite elevating the Astra into a car that could be quite desirable, as well as just one that you'd buy because it's good value or otherwise. For now, well done Vauxhall for reinventing and lifting the Astra to be something that is desirable as well as sensible. Don't forget, head to cargurus.co.uk for a whole host of fantastic used cars, and we'll even tell you whether it's a good deal.